Hello and welcome. I'm your host Will. As the show The Boys moves on to its next season, we're gonna get some new threats. Like the sinister Ginger herself, Ashley. But how will she be a threat? Well, let's take a moment in this video to find out just how bad she'll be. Let's get to it.
Pretty crazy.
He hasn't been alone. I've been here. I got him all these dipping sauces.
If A-Train's character arc in The Boys has been all about redemption, Ashley's is all about corruption. I mean, we knew she was a freak when she told that story about the guy with the elephant toe in Barcelona, but back then, Ashley was just an overworked assistant. The way she changed after gaining power in Vought was bone-chilling, and when we saw her do what she did to Hughie while he was posing as Web Weaver, we knew there was nothing Ashley wouldn't do to preserve her power. Power corrupts. That's what it does. And now, Ashley has powers, literally. And with those powers comes the terrible possibility that this ginger woman might become the worst person we've ever seen. So let's talk about how Ashley's new terrifying super abilities might make her a supervillain, shall we? How did Ashley survive taking Compound V? To begin answering the question about Ashley's powers, we need to talk about Compound V. Because the thing is, Ashley took a massive gamble injecting herself with it. The whole reason Vought injected newborn babies with what we're calling V2 is because that's the only state of biological development where it yielded stable results. V1 is a different story. That formula was devised at the height of World War II, and its purpose was to create adult Supes. V1 is the reason people like Soldier Boy, Stormfront, and Thomas Godolkin never age, because its formula was meant to not only give them powers, but also make them immortal. At some point, Frederick Vought must have realized what he'd done, and the complications of giving this immortality juice to someone that didn't agree with his Nazi ideologies, which is why he developed V2. This formula still gave people powers, but it also aged them, and it's what every Supe after Soldier Boy seems to have received. Payback was created in the aftermath of World War II, and considering how young Gunpowder was in their flashback scenes, we think it's safe to say that most of Payback was given V2 either at an extremely young age or right after they were born. And this method for creating Supes became the standard going forward. The TNT twins, Black Noir, Swatto, even Crimson Countess, all of them had to be in their early 20s when Vought deployed them to combat the Sandinistas in Nicaragua. And considering they were quite old in the main timeline of The Boys, it makes sense that the V they received was not the original recipe. Thomas Godolkin is a different case, because he took V1 in a lab where they were testing new formulas for Project Odessa, and we saw the effect it had on his fellow scientists. They all died horrifying deaths, and he was the only survivor. That's probably because the formula they all took was a modified V1, which, like V2, must have been unstable in adults. This is the main reason why Ashley getting powers is such a shocking development, because usually, adults die when they try to take this stuff. Only if they already have V in their veins can they take more of it without exploding, like A-Train and Popclaw in Season 1. Somehow, Ashley, Hughie's dad, and Butcher are the only people who survived taking Compound V as fully developed adults. But two of those names developed severe problems because of it. Hughie's dad became borderline psychotic as his concept of time was fractured by taking V. He started thinking that he was back at the time when his wife left him, which must have been at least a decade before the main series, if not two. And Butcher ended up giving the V to his cancer cells instead of himself, which is why he has the whole angel and devil on his shoulder situation going on with his hallucinations of Becca and Kessler. We haven't seen Ashley since she took V in Season 4, except in the trailers for Season 5, so we don't know what her powers are or how the V has affected her brain. But considering 2 out of the 3 people we've seen taking V to develop severe psychological issues, it's safe to say that her odds of not going down the same road aren't looking that great. As for how she survived it, maybe willpower has something to do with it, because she did inject herself to survive the purge at Vought. Hughie's dad was in a coma when he got his injection, and Butcher was literally dying of cancer. Perhaps there's something about the changes in the biochemistry of the human body that make taking V non-lethal for adults, but that's our best guess as to how she survived taking Compound V and gained powers. Now that we have the background out of the way, let's talk about what her powers will actually look like, because this is where things start getting really scary. What are Ashley's new powers going to be? How can they make her a supervillain? When it comes to what Ashley's new powers will be, there are two schools of thought we've seen on the interwebs. The first and most sensible one is that she'll get powers that are connected to her hair. Ashley suffers from trichotillomania, which is a real disorder, where a person pulls out their hair when under extreme duress. Ever since she became the CEO of Vought, we've seen her ripping out her strands like they're part of a wig with Velcro on it, to the point that she became bald because of it. This wasn't the kind of baldness that happens naturally. Ashley actively pulled her hair out to relieve the stress she was experiencing in the moment. The fact that she started wearing a wig that looked like her natural hair is evidence that she wasn't exactly proud of this habit, and you can see the shame and self-loathing on her face when Homelander makes her take her wig off. Because her hair has been such a focus for her character, it makes sense to us that her Compound V powers will manifest in some sort of hair-related ability. Maybe like Medusa from Marvel's Inhumans. This makes sense, because the last time we saw Ashley, her skull was writhing, as if there were worms between it and the layer of skin that protects it. Maybe that was just Ashley's Medusa hair popping out of her scalp, which would make a lot of sense, considering both characters are redheads. Medusa from the Inhumans got her powers from the Terrigen mists, which she was exposed to as a child, and Compound V is generally given to children in the boys' verse. So there's that link too. It's quite possible that the hair we're seeing on Ashley in the scenes where she's acting as White House press secretary and licking Oh Father's face is her own, and not a wig, because the V gave her the hair back. And if her powers are actually like Medusa's, then you better get ready for some intense hair-based shenanigans in Season 5. Inhumans Medusa can do all sorts of things with her locks, like picking locks, restraining people, doubling its size and thickness, and lifting upwards of 1.5 tons of weight. We're enjoying the mental image of Ashley just casually lifting a car or something with her hair, whilst ranting like she does because that would be so on brand for her. Plus, her scenes with Tech Knight made it clear that she's into bondage. So we're fully expecting her to use her hair to tie someone up, both in a fun and not so fun way. After all, Ashley's corruption is at its peak when she's having hidden trysts with people like Cameron Coleman and Tech Knight, with the latter having particularly disturbing tastes. Tech Knight knew that Web Weaver had a hole in his back with which he shoots webs, but he was determined to make a new hole in the name of pushing the boundaries of pleasure. That Ashley was associating with him and participating in his extreme debauchery tells you all you need to know about where the line is for her. And it also answers the question of why she would be attracted to Oh Father, a guy who was locked up for molesting children in the boys' timeline. Her type is clearly vile men with a penchant for doing the worst things, and now that she has powers, there's no telling just how far Ashley will go with those things. Of course, she'll also be using her abilities to fight someone at some point, because making her a Supe would be kind of pointless otherwise. But we hope you get why we're talking about her sexual habits so much. It's not because that's all that she is, a closet sex offender. It's because it shows you her capacity for villainy. Any person who is that cool with sleeping with a known racist and a registered child molester doesn't have issues. They are the issue. And that's why we gave this video the title that we did. There is a secondary possibility that instead of being like Inhumans Medusa, Ashley's more like the Gorgon Medusa. And while that would bring her wig back, it would also make her more terrifying as a character. Medusa the Gorgon was called the Gorgon because her head was full of venomous snakes, and her stare would turn people to stone. Now, considering Ashley is the White House press secretary and none of the reporters in that room turn into statues upon seeing her, we can take that particular power off the table. Or maybe she has an activation condition, like Victoria Newman, who could only use her blood-based abilities when her pupils turned white. But Ashley having a head full of snakes would explain why her skull writhed the way it did when we last saw her in Season 4, because that was quite consistent with the way Butcher's cancer crawls around his body. Plus, it would be a not-so-subtle nod to her serpentine nature, because Ashley has constantly snaked people in the back to save her own skin. But what if her power is something completely different? What if Ashley actually has an ability that's more connected to her brain than her body? This is less likely in our opinion, but possibility and likelihood are two different concepts, so we'll address it nonetheless. It is possible that after taking Compound V, Ashley became a figure like the leader from Captain America: Brave New World, because, once again, the way her brain convulsed was just not normal. The leader is a guy called Samuel Stearns, who was a brilliant scientist and tried helping Bruce Banner to reverse his transformations into the Hulk. Unfortunately for Stearns, a drop of Bruce's gamma-tainted blood fell into one of his open wounds, giving him incredible intelligence, but also leaving his head disfigured. Stearns was then subjected to further exposure to gamma rays to harness his intelligence, and forced to create weapons for the US military and heart pills for a man who put him in prison, Thaddeus Ross. He took his revenge on Ross by creating a mind control device to make US soldiers, including the first black super soldier Isaiah Bradley, do his bidding, and turning Ross himself into the Red Hulk. He was ultimately defeated by Sam Wilson and locked up in the raft, but by then, the leader had accomplished his original goal, which was breaking public trust in the United States government. The leader's head had these ugly bumps all over it, which kind of looked like the convulsions that Ashley was experiencing in her last appearance. And given her obsession with her appearance, her survival instinct, and the fact that there's beef between her and Sister Sage, Ashley getting super intelligence just so she can put Sage in her place would be a diabolical development. She'd also gained the mental resources she needs to stay 100 steps ahead of everyone else, which might become a necessity once she realizes just how unstable Homelander is becoming. She took V in the first place to survive his culling of Vought's human personnel, but when she sees that he doesn't care much for Supes either, she might start thinking about how to take advantage of her new powers to help his cause while building a safety net that protects her from extermination. Ashley serving to serve Homelander's buddies is the main reason we think she could have superintelligence, because her survival instinct would tell her to run away or fight him, but her intellect would empower her to play the game. Perhaps she's the new Mindstorm, because ever since he died, Goldolkin exploded and Kate defected to join the Starlighters, the Seven are sorely lacking on the telepathy front. A new superintelligent mind-controlling ally is just the thing Homie needs right now, because someone will have to bend the masses' wills if his shock and awe, blood and bone doesn't work out. And even if Ashley's abilities aren't like the leader's or Mindstorm's, we can say this much about her. She's already on the side that wants to seed chaos throughout the world and eat popcorn while it burns. On top of everything we've just mentioned, there is also the fact that we don't know how the V has affected her personality just yet. It broke Hughie Sr.'s sense of time, and somehow made Butcher more unstable and trigger-happy than he already was. And we have no reason to believe that it won't make Ashley even more unhinged. This is really the core reason why we think she is about to become a new supervillain, because Ashley was already way too comfortable with doing questionable things as a human. Now that she's a Supe and can potentially develop psychosis because of the V, there's no telling which direction her mind will take her in. But what we can't say is that it won't be good, because anyone who joins a press team that's trying to justify concentration camps by calling them freedom camps is out of their goddamn minds. In a way, her supervillain arc has already begun. Now it's a question of how far her villainy goes, and if we're right about her, then you won't like Colby Minifee after season 5 because of the things her character does. Not that you should like Ashley now, because the Web Weaver incident was atrociously uncomfortable to watch, and an extreme violation of human rights, civil rights, and our eyes. Conclusion. But as for why Ashley's new superpowers will be terrifying, we hope we've laid out our case adequately, because that's all we've got for you today. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more content from the boys all summer long. We'll see you guys soon with yet another video, so until then, stay safe. And we know this is a stereotype, but don't trust this particular ginger, please.